I think this important nuance that there's some belief that we as leaders can do everything in team and consensus, that it's democratized, that everybody can have a voice, and that's the ideal.
Welcome to the Value Factory Podcast, brought to you by OneAccord. We're all about helping businesses thrive and grow through leadership, strategy, and meaningful impact. Now, whether you're a seasoned executive or just starting out, our goal is to provide insights and inspiration to help you navigate your journey. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm Nick Anderson, CEO of OneAccord. We're sitting here in the studio of the Value Factory. This is the place where we talk about building value, building enterprise value, developing leaders, conversations about life and business. And who knows if we'll even use that. I don't know. But I'm here today with my friend, Michael, and we're going to talk about some work that we did through the program I created, the course I created called Prepare to Lead. And we'll talk about life and other things. Michael, it's good to have you here.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Cool. Maybe you just want to say for a minute who you are and introduce yourself to the world.
Yeah. Well, as Nick said, I'm Michael Pleger. Been a good friend of Nick's for the better part of a decade, maybe more actually. I work for, well, I guess I'll start. What's more important to me, I'm a husband, father of three. I got an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and 2-year-old. And they are wonderfully chaotic, but also the joy of my world. So, for work, I work in commercial construction. Work for Lease Crutcher Lewis. They're a GC, general contractor that works in Seattle, Portland, and kind of all the way up the I-5 corridor. We build anything from small time little bank remodels to 50-story high rises, and I've worked on a whole barrage of different jobs. So spent a little over 9 years as a project engineer, and then got promoted to my current position as a project manager. And then I started working with you right on the heels of my, it wasn't my actual promotion, but it was preparing to be promoted, so to speak, and kind of entering that new role. It was also as we were recovering from the pandemic and everything that happened around that, and the change of how you try to manage around those challenges and lots of different hardships. And it was also my wife was 6 months pregnant at the time, so there's a lot of things happening.
It's a lot of life converging right there.
Yeah, definitely. So, and as we, continued to talk, there was a lot of challenges that came from all of that. So, anyway, that's a gist of where I was when we met and where I am now.
Yeah. You opened with, you're a husband, you're a father, 3 little ones,
Mm-hmm.
2 little ones and a medium one.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting there.
A growing one.
Yeah. Yeah. What is life like today? Like in this world, raising kids, holding down a job?
I mean, luckily for me, the holding down a job thing is really not taking a huge hit or a toll for me. There's degrees of security around my position, but also around my general skills. So even if the real position that I hold at Lewis were to dissolve for some reason, I have degrees of confidence in not just like my leadership per se, but also just my skills to be able to do well in this world.
So I use the word competence in this context to define that. So you have high degrees of competence in certain areas then become like transferable skills.
Right.
What might be a couple of those that come to mind? Those areas of high competence.
I mean, specifically for me, it's around being a builder.
Yeah.
Which that component or that skill that I have is really the main contributor to my success within Lewis throughout my career. But also, it will continue to be. I mean, that's the thing. If I were to pick it.
And when you say a builder, so if someone meets you on the street and you say, well, I work for a big commercial contractor and I'm a project manager, that's not what you're talking about. No. You're talking about, say more.
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily need to be a builder per se to be a project manager. I mean, there's, to be a part of being a general contractor is you have contracts. To be a contractor is managing contracts. It's very, letter of the law. You do this and you get paid. So, at the simplest form, right?
But a builder is not a contractor.
No.
A builder is like a guy with a dog and a pickup truck and a toolbox.
Yeah, it could be.
Right.
And it at its most basic level, yeah, certainly. Or a guy in his own shop with his own tools just doing his own thing.
And so that's you. So this is your kind of the foundation that you come into the world of general contracting, is that you can actually build things.
Yeah.
Like you can remodel a bathroom, you can put an addition on a house, plumbing and electrical, so you know those things at a different level that when you're managing contracts and even subcontractors. I mean, that's a big part of your job, right?
Yeah, it is. And really the finding the problem and the solution and implementing it, right?
So how many different people are you responsible for or responsible to?
Directly, let's say.
Yeah, let's go direct and then indirect.
Yeah, so directly, I'm responsible for 2 employees that work for Lee Scritcher Lewis, and then I have multiple team members. But there are 2 people that report to me directly.
So 2 direct reports.
Yep.
But then indirectly, how many?
Indirectly, I mean, it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like I have 10 subcontractors on my current project, so each
Right.
one of their project managers would need to report to me. And the thing about construction that's interesting is it's very team oriented. Needs to be for success. It doesn't have to be, I guess, but for a better outcome for all. There really wants to be a team environment. So I like to think of it from a project management perspective is like I have a team member who in this scenario is the superintendent, and our base responsibility is to create an image of success and what that looks like on the job site and make sure people align with it.
You said a responsibility to create an image of what success looks like. How do you do that?
I mean, we tell the story.
Okay.
Right, we find the solution, we tell the story.
Yeah.
And we sell it effectively.
Storytelling and sales. So okay. I follow.
Yeah.
And this is to all of those subcontractors. It's your direct reports. It's everybody on the team.
I mean, it's everybody. It's the owner. It's the person that I report to, my boss, right? It's the foreman. It's the literal carpenter that does the work. It's everybody and anybody through the entire process.
And so, okay, at a high level, we tell the story and we sell it. Break that down into pieces. Like, how do you formulate the story?
I mean, many times, like if the whole job went perfectly without a hitch, the design was perfect, the owner was perfect, there was no questions, there would be no story to tell. It would be in the drawings. But that isn't the way it goes, right? There's the ownership wants to change something. The design is imperfect. There's the subcontractor misinterprets something in the designs and misses something. There's the person who's doing the work itself misinterprets the drawings and builds something incorrectly. or a piece of fabricated material comes and it's damaged or wrong, or any number of problems, right? Well, you take any one of those and you use your team to create this is how we solve this. This is how we move forward, and we reduce impact to schedule and or budget, and sometimes those things are unavoidable.
So something happens, and you said you use the team. Do you bring the team together? Are you doing this in person? You doing video, phone?
All the above. I mean, it's for me personally, it's more effective to sit across the table, stare somebody in the eyes.
Yeah,
but.
And then are you hashing stuff out? Are you guys throwing ideas back and forth? Are you kind of wrestling through? Or are you dictating? Nope, this is the problem. This is the solution.
It depends on the scenario. So it could be both. It could be. I prefer to start it as a how do we solve this?
Yeah.
Like team. You're my team. How do we fix this? How do you want to fix it?
Yeah.
Because it's not missed by me that every person wants to build something differently. Like there are teams of builders out there, to all varying degrees, and they all look at it a little bit different. So, if I can adapt enough to agree to build something in the way that they want to build it, we have a better opportunity for success.
Yeah.
They're bought in. But then also I have relationships with the owner and relationships with the legality of the drawings that I have to manage. So in some scenarios, the answer might be no.
You just have to make a call.
I can't build it that way.
Yeah.
And therefore you need to build it this way.
Right.
So sometimes it just depends. Yeah, it really depends on the problem and the person and the, how much others care about it.
I think this important nuance that there's some belief that we as leaders can do everything in team and consensus, that it's democratized, that everybody can have a voice, and that's the ideal. And then there's another reality that a dictatorship is the most efficient form of governance there is, because there's just one decision and you know. But it's the blend of the two, is what I'm hearing you say, is you need the input from the guys that are closest to the problem, and they have to speak up and they have to share. And sometimes you just have to make a call.
Yep.
You started with kind of you tell the story, you paint the picture, you've got a shared vision as to what success looks like. Things go sideways, they get off the rails. Let's talk about accountability. So that's another word. So I talk about competence and accountability. What do you do as a leader around the idea, notion of accountability?
For me as a leader, I mean, accountability, it's really important to me. It's a if you want to call it a value around. I mean, it's really integrity, right? For me, value wise. But the two, I think, really kind of mesh together really well, or they're required of each other. I mean, in my world, there's contracts that really are kind of our tool of accountability when it comes to subcontractor dealings. We have a set of drawings that we are contractually obligated to meet.
So there's two physical artifacts of accountability. You've got drawings and you've got a contract.
Yeah.
And the drawings are going to say what's being built to what specifications, and the contract is going to say when it's being built, how much it's going to cost, details there.
Yeah.
Could you do your job without drawings and a contract?
Yes.
Really? I thought that was going to be a rhetorical question. How would you do it? How would you do it without those artifacts?
Well, I mean, contractual. I guess when I say yes, I mean you can do it without contractual drawings, right? Like physically drawings from a designer that someone says, "I want you to build this," right? You you're going to have drawings. Like you need to, in construction, drawings are required, let's say. Do they have to be contractual? No. They are in my world, and they do need to be in my world to protect others' interests, of course.
Yeah.
Right? And for clarity's sake.
Clarity. Yeah, I love the statement that clarity is kindness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And accountability, integrity. So I'd say it this way too: without clear agreements, accountability can't exist. And making those agreements clear, documenting them, you've got drawings. It is, this room is supposed to be 110 square feet. It's supposed to be 10 feet by 11 feet. And this is where the window goes, and this is how the door opens, and those things are clear. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the project, well, I didn't know. And yet, I'm sure you've walked into a room and said, what's the window doing on that wall?
Yeah.
Maybe not that extreme, but
certainly. Yeah.
This outlet is not,
yeah.
Placed where it was supposed to be in the drawings.
Yeah.
That stuff happens, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess when I say we could do our job without drawings, contracts, yes, but we can't do it without a clear image of what we want to build.
Yeah.
Right. So, which in my world now, that comes from the owner. In my shop, it comes from me in my head. Right. So if I'm not clear on what I want to build, it's not going to get built.
Yeah.
And it's the same, I think that applies to even relationship scenarios. If I'm not clear in what I want or what I need or what I expect from my direct reports or from my subcontractors, it's just wishful thinking that it's going to happen.
Okay. Is being clear easy?
No.
That was a rhetorical question, right? What's hard about being clear?
Conflict, for me, I would say, specifically, because it's many times it's easier to be vague about things, and then to hope that people comply and that they have the same level of integrity or understanding that you do.
What's your over-under on that? How many times does that work out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an area where we focus a lot in the coursework is around clear agreements and accountability. Mm-hmm. And the reason I would suggest that people don't make clear agreements is because then you have to actually live up to it. Like, I'm going to show up on the job site at 6 a.m. and I'm going to have, tools on ready to go 6 a.m. Really clear. Mm-hmm. If it's 6:05, then I haven't met my agreement. If the agreement is just, we'll see you tomorrow morning, unless there's some kind of clear expectation, if I show up at 6:05, I'm not out of integrity with the agreement. Mm-hmm. That's a, really basic example. Mm-hmm. Let's say it's something more important, like you need concrete to be poured. Did I say that right? It's not. Is it cement or is it concrete? I always get these two.
It is concrete.
Thank you. Good.
I would suggest always calling it concrete.
Just always call it concrete.
If in the one event that you are actually referring to cement, it'd be one time out of hundreds.
Yeah, yes. All right. Okay. So the concrete needs to get poured, and for those of us, I'm not in this space, but I've heard it enough from you that it's got to be poured, it's got to be on time. There are things that stack up behind this, and you can't just pour half of it and come back and pour the other half later. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work out so well because then the building falls apart.
It could without planning. Yes.
Yeah. So there is an agreement that the truck is going to be here at 9 a.m. Mm-hmm. And for the truck to be here at 9 a.m. and do what it does, then we have to have the foundations and I'm using all this language that I don't know, but it's got to be ready for that concrete to go in. And so all of these agreements have to be really clear, and people have to be in integrity with that. Mm-hmm. And there can be conflict. Because what? Because somebody's kid gets sick, and you understand this. You got 3 of them.
Yeah.
How do you respond in those moments when somebody falls short of their agreement?
Yeah, the initial response is okay, well, what are we going to do? It's kind of like a next man up scenario, right? Like, many times in my world, it's not a single person's responsibility. It's a team's, responsibility, or a full-on company's responsibility.
So you've built this kind of team with redundancies where there's backup, so you've got that next man up. Yeah. Preparing for what might be inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing about construction that I love is everything can be fixed. So, if you miss something, if the concrete doesn't show up, if we're not ready for it, or if there's something that's supposed to be in the slab that didn't make it in the slab, there's a solution. There's always, it may cost money, it may cost time, it may impact things, but there's always a solution. So otherwise, you wouldn't see the high rises downtown, because almost all of them have those scenarios, right? So, but accountability, from that sense is really like, we were clear, like we are clear, your contract is clear, I am clear that we had an expectation and you didn't fulfill it, and therefore these are the consequences that we face, and these are what I expect you to cover, right? So if concrete doesn't show up at 9 a.m. and we have to work overtime, it's like, okay, we were clear, the truck needed to show up at 9 a.m. and all the other trucks after it, depending on the size of the port. That didn't happen. I had to work overtime. Here's the cost.
Yeah. And let's be honest, like, nobody likes to have those conversations.
No.
You don't like to have them with our kids. You didn't clean your room, now I got to take away the YouTube. Like, I don't like to do that as a father. It's not fun.
No.
And yet, as Vito Corleone would say in The Godfather, it's the life we chose. This is the life we chose.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So going into this new role, where you are project engineer becoming a project manager, what would you say at that time were your kind of the growth edge, the learning opportunities, the gaps in the development that you wanted to address working with me?
Mine was communication, the very thing we've been talking about the last couple of minutes.
Where were you and where are you?
Yeah, sure. As a PE, I'll take care of it. Like, I got it handled. I don't need you to be in my business. I don't need to update you.
And you, in this case, this is your boss, or this is everybody around you? Yeah.
It's everybody, really. Everybody around me. It's specifically, it impacted my boss the most. Bosses, I guess, and my peers. And really everybody. Like, this idea, like, when I say I have a handle, I do. And I have high levels of responsibility. It's a strength, if you want to call it that, of mine. And so I did, right? But that doesn't mean that everybody understands that. People grew to trust it out of consistency of being able to deliver, right? But that's not the way our world worked. And necessarily, there was always turnover. There was always new people. And what I was learning is that although I had degrees of competency and confidence that I had it handled and I would deliver on the project, people were still like hamstrung or handcuffed by my lack of communication in order to do their own job.
In this moment, you had a strength that was you could handle stuff. Mm-hmm. You could take care of it. Mm-hmm. And overplaying that strength would show up like you don't communicate. So maybe people don't know where you're at in the process. Yeah. You know you are, but they don't.
Yes.
And so this is something that actually got you to where you were at in your career, but what got you there doesn't get you to the next place. So you had to evolve in your communication. And so where are you today?
Yeah, so today my communication is still not perfect, of course, but I implemented systems within my routine weekly in order to allow for that communication to happen, and to kind of force it in a way.
Yeah. Good. Systems are key, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to, because I wasn't going to do it naturally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, that's something that I learned when you look at strengths and weaknesses. Like, yeah, I have a weakness, but that doesn't mean that I, can't do that thing, right? Like, communication it's a weakness for me, but that doesn't mean that I can't do it well. I just need to build systems that allow me to do it well, and effectively.
That's good.
So
when we started, we kick off the coursework with this module on values and identity. And you talked about values. You talked about integrity and accountability, those two kind of being the same.
Yep.
And then there was the exercise of asking people around you for that 360 feedback to kind of tell you how you show up. What do you remember from that maybe had some staying power? What stuck?
I mean, I think what stuck is this aspect of being a builder, like that it was valuable, right? For me, and it was a tool that I needed to use in my career, and in the sense of, like, I understand things in a way that some people don't necessarily, and for me to not say something and not share my knowledge or my experience was a detriment to the team, right?
That's even tied into communication on another level too.
For sure, yeah.
Where it's like, I have the answer, but should I communicate it?
Yeah.
Is there value to that?
Yeah.
You got that feedback.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing that for me that stuck the most. I mean, my superintendent at the time, a man I respect greatly, was like, a lot. You just don't share it, and it's impacting the team.
And he was instrumental in you even going through the coursework, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was on his recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
He sponsored, like, that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about, so there's 6 modules through the coursework. There's values, identity. We had clear agreements. Towards the end of the coursework, we put together kind of a vision, a plan. Like, has your vision evolved from that time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Where
I was fresh being a project manager at that time, and so the vision was really just focused on being the best that I could be, right? Or the best that anybody's had, right? Like, I think my goal, my aspiration was that I wanted to be the best project manager, right?
Yeah.
That anybody's ever had, right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it's still a goal, and in a lot of ways, I've seen it come to fruition, right?
So good.
Yeah. So, I that's still very much a goal for me. I think vision-wise, the things that are changing a bit is how I can use my career or my skills or my competency as a builder to really bring God's kingdom to earth now.
Wow.
Okay. So, like, what does that look like?
Yeah. Say more about that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's around generosity. Like, I have a heart around generosity. And for people, like, all people within, I believe all people are within God's kingdom. So it's really everybody, right?
This is interesting. So when you're going into the job, your focus is really on the core of the job, being the best at the job that there ever was. Now you're in the job, I'm just going to project into this, you're a little more comfortable because you've been there, right? It's not new. And so your vision, your purpose in this particular time or season becomes really big. That's encouraging. How how do you reconcile such a big vision? Say it again, that your vision
is to, I mean, my vision is to be like, I mean, I want to be the builder I want to be the builder that exists in God's kingdom. Like,
yeah.
Right? Like, I don't necessarily understand what God's kingdom is going to look like. And I don't know that I ever will, but I like to think that in that realm, there isn't this exchange of money. There isn't the contractual obligations. There isn't the, kind of like when the first question you asked is like, can you build without contracts or documents? And my answer is yes, because I believe in God's kingdom we would be able to, and we will be able to. And so, and we would do it generously.
Yeah.
Right? And I would use my skill, my competency generously for those around me. So my vision is really to try and do that, to build in a way that is generous to God's people.
So good. There's two things that are in my mind. Number one is Dr. Rob McKenna, that he developed the Wild Leaders Toolkit, and he talks about purpose and calling, and that our purpose, when we are identified as sons and daughters of God, when we understand our purpose as He created us, that's a constant on this, and it may become revealed to us over time the more that we are in relationship with God to understand our purpose. But our calling might change. We might be called here and called here with that purpose. So to be in a place where you're having greater and greater clarity around your purpose and the calling, like this is some higher level development as a leader, And then the other thought is, I was just recently in Las Vegas and was talking with Alex Hormozy, and what was really clear throughout his organization were three core values, and one of them is unimpeachable character. And why this is coming in here is there is a higher level and higher order to the people that I have witnessed are the most successful. The very most successful people in business operate with unimpeachable character, high degrees of integrity, high degrees of accountability and authenticity, and they're really clear on what their purpose is, and they have integrity around that. And so I guess I'm saying this in this moment, it's like really encouraging to hear that, when you're facing this next level promotion from project engineer to project manager, you're thinking about the job, the next job. I want to be the best at the job. So now you're in this role, and now you're thinking really big picture. Like, I want to be the best person. I want to live into this purpose on a super encouraging.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me to be the best manager, I needed to be the best person, right?
Yeah.
So, and that meant, high levels of integrity, clarity, and to lead from a place of love, right? So that's what that meant.
And it's a purpose beyond the job. It's an identity outside of the job. We work with founders and entrepreneurs, owners of business, and sometimes we're working with them through a transition. Maybe they're transitioning the company they started to the next generation, or they're taking their baby and they're going to sell it. They're going to cash in. And for some of the folks that we work with, their whole identity is the business. There isn't an identity out of it, and that becomes really dangerous, because once the business is gone, once the job is gone, what is my purpose? What is my identity? So as we are working through these 6 modules in Prepare to Lead, there are big ethereal, existential questions of who are you? Who am I? What is my purpose? Where do I want to go in this life that is not just next year or the next 3 years, but long term?
Yeah.
Super encouraging.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing all this. What might you say? What might you say to anybody watching that's listening or listened this far about going through these modules, doing the work?
Yeah.
What do you say about doing the work?
Well, I mean, I think to tie into what you kind of just talked about, right? Like this idea of my identity. Yeah, part of my identity is to be a project manager for Lee Scritcher Lewis at the moment, right? But it really goes beyond that, right? Like the course specifically, it helped me be a good project manager for Lee Scritcher Lewis in my current role. But more than that, it challenged me as a human to be who I, or who God sees me as, right? Like to have the identity that God gave me. And to see myself through his eyes as my father, right? It challenged me to do that work. And then that work really influenced how I show up at work. And how, like, the success of me as a leader or as a project manager, it really, that work, you might show up and this is a leadership course, and I'm like, okay, well, where I'm a leader is mostly at work. But it's not true. It's I'm a leader everywhere. Whether people choose to follow me or not, like, I am, right? And I believe that we are transformed constantly, and we get to choose how we're transformed. So therefore, I have a responsibility to be someone that represents Jesus Christ as best that I can, so that if people want to be transformed by me, they're transformed into Jesus Christ, which I believe is what our responsibility is as Christians. And I took that. I was challenged to do that, and I did that work. I'm still doing it, and I've taken it to work. I think that's what I gained from this program the most.
And this is special, and it's interesting because there's nothing inherently spiritual or religious about the coursework. It's very personal. And your experience through it touches into your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And emulating Jesus Christ in particular is like your personal leadership journey. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think so.
All right. I guess in conclusion, is there anything that I haven't asked you about that would be important to share in the context of your leadership journey?
No, I think, I think we have a personal relationship that went beyond the course, and started before the course. So there's a lot of history for us. I think that that came into play, but also a lot of it, as much as we knew about each other and the friendship we have, there's always deeper, right? And the course really went deeper, I think, for me, and the course is designed to do that. I think that's really clear. And then from there, there's tools that I gained to be a better manager on the very surface level day to day, and then also challenges on what the manager I wanted to be was in the future. And then the other part of that, at the end of it, there's a challenge to go find people that you would aspire to be, and get access to them in somewhat any means necessary. Like take the step to go talk to those people, and find out what their experience is and use them now, right?
Yeah.
Learn from the people that did it before you, and that has been pretty influential as well for me.
That's awesome.
So
I've said it this way. There's an old book that a lot of people read, and in that book there's this line that says, "There's nothing new under the sun." And it is the truth that if you listen to people who are very successful, they will say things like, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." I go back to Hormozy, and he says that he tries to hang out with people that are more successful than him. And that's cool. Like, the advice to build a network of people around you that are those people that you aspire to be is great advice. The question then is, how do you do that? And I think the coursework lays out how you do that.
Yeah.
How do you identify them? How do you engage with them? How do you show up? What do you deliver? What are you asking for? And so it takes this idea that's a really good idea that's been around for a long time and puts it into like tactical steps. Yeah, that's cool. In my life, it is absolutely the story of mentors that I can point to time and time again that helped me get to where I want to be. So, cool.
Yeah, for me, it's I like to think of myself as like the lead wolf, if you will. And the people behind me, I rely on them for survival. And they are people, mentors and grandparents, and just all of the wisdom that I could possibly get from people that have been in my life or could potentially be in my life, right? They're just adding to the wolf pack, so to speak, that I really rely on to survive and to succeed, right? That's kind of the way that I like to think of it.
Not a lone wolf.
Nope.
But the lead wolf.
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us in this conversation. This is one of many. We will continue conversations here in the Value Factory talking about the development of leaders, the growth of companies, building value, built on values. That's what we're about. Thanks for hanging out.